start telling me something about yourself, your current roles and responsibilities in technology you have used?
Yes, I have 5.5 years of experience in Java. So I have worked on Java, Java 8, Spring MVC, Spring Boot, and database side I have worked on MySQL and SQL Server. Currently, I'm working in a MongoDB, which is NoSQL. Yeah. So my current company is a product-based company. So whatever the requirement come from the client, we do the enhancement according to that. And sometimes I work on bug fixes as well.
Okay, so is it mostly an enhancement project or a support project?
No, it's an enhancement project. Actually, it is a product-based company.
Okay. So for the unit testing, you are using anything like JUnit, Mockit?
No.
So there is no unit testing. So which methodology you are currently following? It's Agile or Waterfall?
Actually, earlier they use Agile, but they now we use there is a one tool, ClickUp, and we have maintain our task and all the details.
Okay, fine. So let's start with the core Java first. What are the OOPS concepts?
OOPS concepts are like abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. So abstraction is to hide the information, to hide the implementation from the user and showing only specific data. So that is the abstraction. We can achieve the abstraction by using interface and the abstract class. And polymorphism means we can do the one task in a multiple way. So that is a polymorphism. There are two types of polymorphism: compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. Encapsulation is to bind our data and their corresponding method in a single entity. So like POJO class is one of the example of encapsulation. And inheritance is like a parent-child relationship is a relationship. So means whatever the parent has a methods, child class easily access that all that method, which is present in a parent class. So that is the OOPS concept.
Okay. So you said that in abstraction we are hiding the data.
Yeah, we hide the implementation.
Okay. So hide the implementation. So what is data hiding then?
Data hiding means we cannot access data directly. So in that we make our fields private.
Is there any difference between data hiding and abstraction?
Without any credential, he cannot access our data directly.
Okay, I just pasted a class in the chat box. Are you able to access it?
Yes.
Can you start sharing your screen and copy paste it on your notepad?
Okay.
Yeah, and in the chat box there is a code. So here I'm trying the data method overloading. Okay. I have changed the return type in method overloading. So is it fine?
Yeah, it is fine. Okay. Because in method overloading, we check the only method signature.
Method signature. So I have changed the parameter as well. So signature is changed, right?
Yes, method signature means method name and their parameters.
So parameters are different now.
Yeah, method are different in a method overloading.
Parameters are different in method overloading.
Yes.
So only parameters is considered, or any return type is also considered?
No, it will not consider return type.
Okay, fine. Let's say that I am creating an object of parent class. Parent P is equal to new parent. Okay.
Okay, parent. New parent.
And I am calling P.M1.
P.M1. Okay.
And I am passing null.
Null.
So which method will be called?
The string.
Why?
I think it will give the first reference to the child.
Just copy paste that string method after line number 12.
12. Okay. This one?
No, that method. Copy line number 4 to 7. 4 to 7. And paste it on after line number 12. Oh, yeah, here also. Okay. Now which method will be called? Like we need to change the string to string builder.
Okay, so that time we will get the ambiguity problem.
Okay. So ambiguity problem, it's in a compile time or when we are calling with the null?
It will give in a runtime.
It will give runtime problem.
Yeah.
So method overloading is a compile time polymorphism or runtime polymorphism?
Actually, it is a compile time polymorphism. Method overloading is a compile time polymorphism.
So why at runtime it's going to decide?
Actually, every exception is in a runtime only. Actually, compiler will give the warning that you have to change that method. Yeah, otherwise you will get the exception.
Okay. Okay, fine. Let me send you the another class, which is child. Just paste this class after the parent class. After the parent class. So this is child class which extends parent. And I'm trying to override the method now with string parameter, and I have changed the return type.
Okay. It will give the string object.
So in my parent class, the return type is integer. And in my child class, the return type is object.
It will work.
It will work?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, it will work.
Okay, and another thing is we are calling IO exception as well, throwing IO exception.
IO exception. Oh, it is a check exception. So we have to handle that exception in a parent class as well.
Handle or throw?
Oh, throw.
So if it is a null pointer exception,
then we don't need to throw the exception because it is a runtime exception, so we don't need to throw.
Okay. Which version of Java you worked on?
8.
So what are the Java 8 features?
Lambda expression, functional interface. There are also default and static method introduced in Java 8. Optional class I have used. And stream API. These are the features I'm introducing Java 8.
Okay. So default method inside the interface, okay?
Yes.
So let's say I have interface I1 and interface I2. Both are having public void M1 method, which doesn't accept any argument. And in the default method is that, okay? Default void M1, which doesn't accept any argument. And they are just sysouting the interface name. Like in I1, it will print I1. In I2, it will print I2. Okay.
Okay.
And I have a class ABC, which implements I1 and I2, both.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm calling that the new ABC dot M1.
Okay.
So which method will be called?
That time actually we will get the ambiguity problem. Because JVM will confuse which method should he call.
So how we can resolve that?
For that, we have to override that method, default method.
Okay.
Other way, we can make the interface as a primary if you want.
Okay. So fine. Why string is immutable?
String is immutable because for their security purpose, let's say I have created one string and it is stored in a string constant pool. Okay, so that is maintain the cache. So if there is a multiple client, I'll access that same integer. Let's say I have a one. Okay, I have changed it ABC, and other client also change the XYZ. So all the client will show will show the XYZ. So that string is mutable. When we create an object of string, it will not change in the existing string. It will create a new object.
Can we create our own immutable class?
Yes, we can create.
Okay, I just pasted two classes, employee and address. I want to make employee classes immutable.
Sorry, can you?
Yeah, you can click on show more and copy paste those two classes. Now let's say I want this employee class to be immutable.
You have to make that class as a final. All the fields should be private and final. And provide only getter methods. And you have to make the parameterized constructor. Using that, we can make a class immutable.
Okay, so from the constructor, parameterized constructor, what we are going to do is we are just
initialize that to initialize the employee class.
Okay, so we are just going to do this dot id is equal to id, whatever the id is passed.
Yes.
And this dot date of joining is date of joining which is passed.
Yes.
So local date is not the immutable object, and address is also not immutable. So we can change the value of it, right? Let's say I have called the employee dot get date of joining, and I'm appending the date, like 8 days. So that means the employee object's date value is changed. How we are going to handle this?
For that, we have to set setter and getter method for that.
Setter and getter method?
Yes. We don't actually, that time we don't need to initialize that variable through the constructor. Just provide a setter and getter method.
So if we are providing setter, then we can change the object value, right?
Yes.
Still it is not immutable. And list is also not immutable object. So I can add anything into the list.
I think we will set that variable using a setter method. So, because we use a setter and getter method.
So if we are going to provide the setter method, then again the property of immutable will be changed. What immutability says that if anything is changed, then there should be a new object, right?
Right.
But we can change the same object by changing the local date.
For that, then we can do that two fields in a other class and extend that class with this employee class.
So still we can do that.
No, this is the employee class only. This is the only final class now.
So if we are employee class is extending some other class which is having these two fields, okay, then we need to take the we can call the getter method of that particular parent class, right? So say local date is having a method 8 days, so I can call that method. Okay, fine. Let's assume that you have worked on streams also, right?
Yes.
Let's assume that we are having the list of employees, okay?
Okay.
So from this list, I want, you can mention that employee list. So from this list, what I want, that employee who has joined after 1st Jan 2022.
Well, 2022.
Yeah, 1st Jan 2022. And I want their name. In the employee class, there is a name field, right?
Yes.
I want their name as a key of hashmap and first element of address list as a value of hashmap. So your stream operation will return me a map of string and address.
String and address.
So you can write it down map. Key will be string and value will be address. So this should be your stream operations return. So string will be the name and address will be the first element of address list in this employee class. So you can assume that there is an EMP list, and you can you please write down that stream operations. Okay, fine, Nilesh. So first thing, like in a filter condition, okay. So you are comparing the date of joining local date is equal to operator. So is it fine?
Method. No. It has a one method, get method. So you can check. Actually, local date has one method to check the date. Actually, I'm not able to recall it, which method it is. So
Yes,
right now, I just take the as a string. But yeah, local date has a one string, has a one method to check the condition, like this is a equal or greater or less, between. They have a methods to check the conditions.
Okay. And what is the difference between map and flat map function in stream?
Okay, map actually, if you want to change any value, so it will return the value. Map actually, flat map is a if we have a list of list, so and I want to in a single list, so that time we use a hash map.
Hash map or flat map?
Sorry, flat map.
Okay. Okay, let's assume that I want to use employee as a key of hash map. Okay. So what are the changes I need to do in this employee class?
Yeah, in that we have to override the two methods, equals method and hash code methods.
Okay, let's say that I haven't overridden the hash code method. I just overridden the equals method, and with proper check, ID, name, date of joining, and address list.
Okay.
So what will happen in that case?
Actually, it will store the data in a single bucket. If there is a two objects are equals by using equals method. Okay, so it will store in only single bucket.
If we are not having the hash code implementation.
Yes.
Single bucket.
Identify the index of bucket that object should be stored. If
let's say two objects are equal with the equals method, then their hash code will be changed, right?
Yes.
If we are not implementing that hash code method.
Yeah.
So we are using object class hash code method, and hash code is changed. So in that case, both objects will be stored in a different bucket, right? So what is the significance of that?
Objects are same. So So are you talking about means two objects are equal by using equals method, and hash code of that both objects are equal?
Different.
Different.
Yes.
Okay, so that time actually that both objects should be stored in a single bucket.
But hash code is different. So
yeah, but the hash code is different, so that's why it stored in a different bucket. So it will. So actually, it should be stored in a single bucket, but because of we haven't override the hash code, it's stored in a different bucket.
So if it is storing in a different bucket, then the performance will get enhanced, right?
Yes.
Because if let's say that we have properly overridden the equals and hash code method, okay, and 10 objects are having same hash code, but they are different from the equals method. So all that are stored in a single bucket.
Yes, but in a different linked list.
Yeah, in a different linked list. It will be stored in a not in a linked list. From Java 8, it will be stored as a tree structure. After 8, it will be stored as a tree structure.
Okay.
So if it is a 10, more than 8 element in a single bucket, then they will be stored in a tree. But still I need to figure it out that in which node I need to go. So that is the performance count we need to hit. Right?
Yes.
So instead of doing that, can we do that our hash code will be different for each and every object? Can't we do that?
Sorry? What?
Whatever the object we have created, hash code should be different.
Yeah, we can do by using
let's say,
ID.
What is the basic size of hash code? Hash map?
Hash map is 16. Default
16.
size.
16. Default size is 16. Okay.
Yes.
So it's a 16 element, and all 16 elements are having different hash code.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter whether they are equals or not. It will be stored in 16 different buckets. Yes. So the retrieval will be faster, right?
Yes.
There won't be any enhanced for loop again. So there won't be two loops to iterate the conditions. So why Java is not doing that? Okay, the thing is why Java is not doing, because we need to maintain the unique collection. So if everything is having the different hash code, and it might be happen that two objects are same. But in that case, it will be stored in a different bucket. So there will be no unique element will be maintained as a key. That's the reason. Okay. Okay. What is the difference between linked list and array list?
Linked list and list. Okay. Array list. List or array list?
Linked list and array list.
The linked list and array list. Linked list actually for our update we have to do any update operations. So that time we use a linked list, and array list is used for to search the record. So that time we use array list. For searching purpose, we use the array list.
Okay, for updation purpose, we are going to use linked list.
Yes. For update operation, we'll use a linked list.
Like we can easily set like updation also. We can directly set that array list dot set ith element to this. Correct?
Yes.
So it will be faster. Instead of traversing to the node and getting that element and then changing it.
Yeah, but when we do the using a array list, so it will create a new list and copy the older into the new.
In case of insertion in the middle, it will create a new list, not updation. So let's say at fifth index, I want to insert something new. So whatever at the fifth index, it will be shifted to the sixth index. In that case, it will create a new array. Or else it will not create any. That's why we are majorly using array list, not linked list. Because we do not require anything to be inserted in between the list. So what is the difference between list and set?
List and set, actually, list is allow the duplicates and insertion order is preserved. But in a set, duplicates are not allowed and insertion order is not preserved.
How can we preserve the insertion order in set?
Preserve order?
Yes.
Let's say I add the element in the format 1, 2, 3. So array list in that order. But
what my question is, in set also I want to maintain that insertion order.
Okay, so that time you use a link hash set.
Okay. That's correct. What is the difference between comparator and comparable?
Comparable is a nature sorting order. Comparable has two methods. Comparable has a compare to method. Comparator has a compare and equals method. Present in java.util package. Comparing. And if you want, if you're not satisfied with the nature sorting order, and if you want to customize sorting order, so that time we use a comparator.
Okay, let's assume that employee table. Okay. So employee table, I'm having employee ID name, and I'm going select star from employee order by ID, comma name. I can do that, right? In SQL. So it will be sorted by ID and name both. Can we do it in Java?
Yes, using we can.
Let's say that list of employees, and that should be sorted with the ID and name both.
Yes, we can sort.
How?
Using comparator we can do.
So how you are going to apply to comparator in that case?
We have to override the compare to method, compare method in our employee class, and let's say our compare method. New. So here I will I use a condition here.
So in the employee class itself, you are going to use the compare method.
Yes, actually I will extend that class using a comparator.
Generally, we will create a separate class for comparator.
Yes. We pass the
So comparator is having a then compare method. By using that, we can use. Let's say we have created a ID compare, ID comparator, and then compare is method in comparator, which can be used as compare by name. So name comparator we can use. Okay. I just pasted a string in the chat box. Can you copy paste it? So here, let's say this method is, okay, you can do the copy test. What will this method will be returning in case of exception, in case of no exception?
So in case of exception, yeah, 3 will be returned in both cases.
Both.
Yes.
How we can create the checked exception?
Check exception.
Yeah.
We never create a check exception.
Okay. Do you know what is checked exception?
Check exception. The exception which are checked by the compiler. That is a check exception. So like IO exception, these are IO exception, file not found exception. These are the exception, check exception.
Can we create our own checked exception?
Yes, we can create our own check exception.
How?
Using extend the class using a runtime exception.
Runtime exception. So runtime exception is a checked exception.
No, it is unchecked exception.
Yeah.
Runtime exception is an unchecked exception. It is not a check exception.
So if we are using to extend the runtime class, how we can make it as checked exception? It should be extending the exception class, right?
Yeah, it should be extend. Yeah, we can also do using exception. We can extend the exception. But if you doing a check exception, so mostly we use we need to extend the runtime exception instead of exception.
Okay, and then
you have to write a constructor. Under that you have to call a super method. Under that you have to pass the message.
So how compiler will recognize that this is a checked exception?
Actually, it's compiler will check like when we
let's say that example of employee class, we want to find the employee with the ID. Okay. I have passed some random number in the ID. So that particular employee ID doesn't exist inside the database. So it should throw a employee not found exception. So my service will declare the throws keyword that employee not found exception. Throws employee not found exception. So if my controller is calling that method from the service, either it need to handle or it need to rethrow.
Yes.
Okay. I pasted a question inside the chat box. So this is my input 1. This is a string. Okay. Input 2 is an integer. Okay. And whatever the integer value, from there we need to reverse that particular string. Okay. So 5 is a input. In that case, I am going to the 5th word. So let is a first, reverse is a second, the is a third, first is 4th, and kth is the 5th element. So I am reversing that string. So kth, first, the, reverse, let. Okay. This is my output, and all other thing will be the same. my input one. This is a string. Okay. Input 2 is an integer. Okay. And whatever the integer value, from there we need to reverse that particular string. Okay. So 5 is a input. In that case, I am going to the fifth word. So let is a first, reverse is a second, the is a third, first is fourth, and kth is a fifth element. So I am reversing that string. So kth, first, the, reverse, let. Okay. This is my output, and all other thing will be the same. So here it's employee table, which is having employee ID, employee name, and manager ID. Okay. So from this table, I need the manager name, which is not just the employee name. Manager ID is nothing, just the employee ID of manager. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
MGR ID is nothing. It's just the employee ID of who is the manager. Okay. So for XYZ, ABC is a manager, and OPU, ABC is a manager. PLK 2. So 2 means XYZ is a manager.
Okay.
So here what I want, the employee name and the number of employees reporting to him as a count. Can you write down the query?
Count of manager.
Count of employees reporting to him.